Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. And today, I wanted
Did your God create hell? Yes or no?
She said yes.
Yes.
Okay. Does your God create the rules of the universe, including the criteria by which souls are judged?
Yes.
Does anything happen that doesn't go according to your God's will?
No.
Then your God is ultimately responsible for everything, including the people who he sends to hell.
That is so messed up. I mean,
Yeah, that logic stuff, it's a real pain in the ass, isn't it?
Mock them, ridicule them. In public. Don't fall for the convention that we're all too polite to talk about religion. Religion is not off the table. Religion is not off limits. Religion makes specific claims about the universe which need to be substantiated and need to be challenged and, if necessary, need to be ridiculed with contempt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 says that in the latter time, some are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 states, before the man of sin is revealed, before the day of the Lord, that there will be a falling away that's going to take place in the last days. There will be an apostasy, mainly because Christians have turned away from the word of God and they have listened to man. And because, man can make arguments that apparently can't be argued against, for some, it's going to cost them their faith. I know there's some people out there that believe that a person can't lose their salvation, but we can't deny that there are people out there engaging with atheists. And after they engage with them, some of them, not all of them, but some of them will ultimately become atheists themselves because they feel like the atheists are making good arguments. And I'm here. This ministry exists. For one of the reasons why this ministry exists is to confront these kind of things. And atheists are, whenever you engage with one of them, you have to immediately understand that they're not being honest with you when it comes to how they know that something is true. Okay, atheists will give you unrealistic expectations or unrealistic things that they're going to want in order for you to prove whether or not your God exists or not, or whether or not God exists or not. And the second you humor what they have to say with that, you have to understand that you're immediately going against what Christ actually taught. It is by faith that we are saved. It is not by works. It is not by, God exists, therefore you need to become a Christian. That doesn't save anybody. You proving to an atheist that God exists does not prove to them that they need a savior. That's why a lot of them will ultimately convert to Christianity after you deal with them thoroughly on the moral issue. Issue they can't win because they have no basis for their morality. But what I want to do in this video is I want to give proof positive that the atheists have a lot of unrealistic expectations. This is not going to be all of them because some of them, well, actually, you know what? This is all of them. And you want to know why this is all of them. I'm talking about, let me be very specific. The militant atheists, the strong atheists, the militant atheists, the strong atheists, the weak atheists, the atheists in general, the Jesuit, it doesn't make a difference because just because they reword what they're trying to say doesn't mean they're not saying the same thing. Okay. So if you're talking to a militant atheist, they're going to be really aggressive with you about this topic. And if you're talking to a strong atheist, they're going to be pretty confident that the things that they're saying is actually true. And their number one thing is that there's no proof that God exists. Okay. And then they'll say, if you want to convince them, and this is important, hear me on this, because they're good. If they're good at something, they're good at playing word games a lot. What they'll try to convey to everyone is that they want 100% evidence that God does not, that God exists. They want 100% evidence that God exists. And until they get 100% evidence that God exists, they won't believe that God exists. Now, before we actually get to the argumentation, do you understand what you're engaging in? You're engaging in atheism and theism, not whether or not you're going to turn from your sins and become a Christian. As a matter of fact, Satan actually gives you a smack and deviates you to go into a totally different direction. And if you're not good enough to talk to these atheists and turn it into a gospel message, you're probably not going to be a believer very long, because they're going to frustrate you to no ends. All right. And I'm talking from experience. I didn't become no atheist and nothing like that, but I do understand the frustration when you believe their claims and you go in the direction that they want you to go in. So let's actually get into this here for a moment now. Do they really want 100% evidence that God exists? The answer is no. Let me say this again. When an atheist is asking you to provide for them 100% evidence that God exists, the answer is no. They already got a game plan on how they're going to talk to you. Okay. Not to mention, nobody lives that way. Nobody out there lives where they need 100% proof for anything. Nobody. Not Richard Dawkins, not Matt Dillahunty, not Steve McCarthy. None of these people live their life where they need 100% evidence. And I like to give you a demonstration of what I'm talking about here. Now, I went to the store before I came here, before I made this video, and I bought some pretzels. I went and bought some pretzels. This bag is not open. This bag is not open. I know that these are pretzels because it says thick pretzels on the bag, right? What if I had the attitude that the atheist had and said, I need 100% proof that these are pretzels before I can eat them? I mean, they look like pretzels. They got salt on them. They got the same coloring. But I need 100% proof that these are pretzels before I can believe these are pretzels. Who lives their life that way? So what I'll do is I'll look on the back. I'll look at the ingredients. Some people do that. I'll look at the nutritional facts. I'll look at the pretzels. I got an idea what the law teaches about companies lying about what they're actually giving you, even though they don't get in trouble for it anyway. And I can open up these bag of pretzels. I can smell it. It smells like a pretzel, but I still don't have 100% proof that this isn't a pretzel. Do you understand what I'm talking about? I don't have 100% proof, and I'm still going to end up eating this pretzel, right? Let's use something a little bit less silly as an example so that you guys can understand what I'm talking about, right? What if I went to a cell phone store and they told me that my cell phone will not cut off until 30 days, and after that 30 days, if I don't pay my bill, they're going to cut it off. Where's my 100% proof of that? I don't go in there and make them show me all of the records in the phone store. I don't make them show me the historicity of all the customers that they ever had, that every last customer had their phone for 30 days or 31 days before, if you don't pay the bill, that they're going to cut it off. I don't have no proof for that. Nobody lives their life like that. Or here's an even better one. You go buy a plane ticket because you want to fly from the U.S. and you want to go to Jamaica, Haiti, or if you want to go to Israel, or you want to go to Russia or the Ukraine, or you want to go to Eastern country or whatever. You know what I mean? We don't go in there and examine the wings of the plane. We don't go in there and check the engine before we sit down on the plane. We don't go in there and check the window. We don't do that. What do we go by? What's the definition of evidence? And this is the definition of evidence. The available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. Gee, man, you're making that up. Okay, let's just do a quick screen share real quick. And we're going to look at the definition of evidence real quick, okay? Just to show everybody I'm not making this up. The available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is valid, is true or valid, right? So we have to go by the information that we have on something in order to determine whether or not something is actually true. The atheist will then lie even further and tell you that no one has ever, and I'm dead serious, they will lie to you and tell you. They will tell you a bold-faced lie. An atheist, before you sit there and tell me I'm being mean and I'm being dishonest about all of this, think about it. Think about what I'm about to say here a minute. You just got finished saying that no Christian on the planet has ever shown any evidence for God whatsoever. We're not talking about convincing you. We're talking about evidence, right? So we can't talk about the complexity of life. We can't talk about that, right? We can't talk about intelligent design, right? We can't talk about presuppositionalism, right? how you can't make sense out of your worldview without God. Moral absolutes prove that that God must exist. You have to have a moral lawgiver in order for anything to be right or wrong, good or evil. And don't tell me you don't believe in evil, because you call Christians evil all the time. You call God evil all the time. So just stop it. All right. You're not being intellectually honest about what it will take to get you to openly admit with your mouth that God exists. And it's important that people know this if they're going to engage with an atheist. Do not believe them right off the word go. I'm sorry. Do not believe them right from the word go when they try to sit there and say, if you just show me evidence, I'll believe. No, they won't. No, they won't. And atheists, I would like to look at it from your perspective, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. How many times have you tried to convince somebody that evolution is true? You draw your little pictures, you make your little cartoons, you know what I mean? You try to show similarities between man and beast like this, you know what I mean? And then you come to the conclusion that this comes to this, and I'm giggling and I'm laughing, but this for a reason, right? People don't believe all your claims, so why is it a mystery to you that that people will why is it a mystery to you when somebody comes on here and calls you out on your dishonesty when we say things like you're not being honest regarding what it will take to prove to you that God actually exists? Which is why there are some of us that will come out and say, listen, let's just cut the baloney. Let's just save ourselves 3 hours here. You already know that he exists. You just suppress the truth and unrighteousness. You know what I mean? A lot of us will just jump and do that. Okay? So why do you need 100% proof that God exists, but you don't need 100% proof that plane is actually going to take off? Why do you need 100% proof that God exists, but you don't have 100% proof that boat is going to go from point A to point B? Why do you need 100% proof that God exists, but you don't require that you get 100% proof that the food that you're going to eat is safe? Some of you still drink out of the tap. Some of you go out there and you buy your water like I do. You go out there and you buy your Poland Spring like the rest of us. You don't have 100% proof that they didn't put poison in this, or a little minute amount of poison here. You don't have that. No one lives their life like that. So why is it that when you engage with Christians, you demand 100% evidence that God exists, or 100% proof? Because I know some of you try to say the proof and evidence is the same thing, and to an extent you have a point. But why do you require that when you don't require that for anything else in your life? Then on top of that, and then let's get into the meat and potatoes of this topic of evidence here. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here, right? The definition for evidence is the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is valid or true. What is the vehicle that we're going to use to indicate whether or not the available body of facts is actually true? What is the vehicle we're going to use? A lot of us in the evolution creation debate will argue that, okay, so they'll ask an intelligent designer, they'll be like, what is the mechanism for intelligent design? We'll ask them what the mechanism for evolution is. We say that it's complexity. They say, that we will say it's complexity, and that we'll say that a mind is evolved. They will sit there and argue for evolution that is mutations, right? In the case of whether or not God exists, they want to use science. Now, remember, these are supposed to be the people that are supposed to be good at biology, chemistry, zoology, and all these other different scientific topics, right? But even they know that you can't prove anything 100% with science. So if you're requiring people to give you 100% proof that God exists, why run to the one thing that you will ultimately admit out of your own mouth that science doesn't prove anything 100%? You're being dishonest. You're being dishonest with your first statement that you need 100% proof for God. No, you don't. You're being dishonest to people when you go out there and you say that what is it? You need proof for God, and you're being dishonest when you're going out there and you're trying to convince people that that no one's ever provided any evidence to you. You're being dishonest. You're not telling the truth. You're playing word games. Because just like I, as a Christian, am starting off with the presupposition that God exists, and I want you to come to that conclusion in that kind of conversation or debate, you are coming to the conversation with the same attitude that God doesn't exist, and you want to play your games in order to get people to join your worldview. All right. Good morning, Mono Chill. Good morning, Rebuke and Reprove. How you guys doing? Okay, so let's go into this a little bit further. Let's dive even deeper into this. So let's just say we use your vehicle for science. Let's say, and this is how silly and foolish it is when they ask us to use science, because you can literally play with the atheists like all day with strings, using their own argument that you need science to prove that God exists. Okay, fine. Let's use science. It has to be testable and it has to be repeatable. Okay, in order for that thing to actually be true. Okay, we're not going to go into evolution. I've done destroyed that quadrillion different times over. Let's talk about the evidence of God. Let's say that I can show you using either irreducible complexity, intelligent design, or whatever, using logic, and show you why a mind or God's power has to be involved in order for us to exist. That it couldn't have happened according to your theory regarding evolution. For example, the abiogenesis. Because without abiogenesis, there just ain't no evolution. You have to have that first living organism coming out of this soup, out of this oxygenless environment, in order to have something that's going to evolve. We have proven time and time again that they don't know what the environment was, and we have proven that the abiogenesis is an impossibility. But they continue to believe it. And then when we show them how God has to be involved, because we have always seen life produce life. We have seen life produce life. We have seen life produce life. We have never, ever, ever, ever seen non-life produce life. We have never seen it before. Yet this is what they believe. But let's take it a step further, because that's not enough for them. I lie to you not. There are people, I think his name was Alex Botton, and Cliff Jumper, and there was a couple of other people in here that was, and you know what? I'm going to get clips of these from the old Hangout days. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Just how foolish some of these people are. That even if God showed up, came down from heaven, had a meal with you, and ate with you, talked to you, spoke with you, that they still wouldn't believe, because they're going to say, how do they know that they're not in the matrix? That is how silly these people are at the end of the day when you're having a conversation with them about whether or not God exists. But they're the ones who pick science as a vehicle. You know what I use as a vehicle? What we use every single day. Faith. Because that's how I know that that plane is going to make it from point A to point B. That's how I know that boat is going to go from point A to point B. That's how I know that the car I'm in, if I drive it somewhere, it's going to make it from point A to point B. It is faith backed by evidence. It is not just 100% proof of anything. Nobody lives like that. Those people who got on the Titanic was told it was the unsinkable ship. That nobody could mess with Titanic. And one of the joys I get out of watching that movie, Titanic, and reading about it in books and listening to the cocky manufacturers that talked about Titanic and how that ship would never sink, is that it sunk. Man's greatest glory blew up in its face when Titanic hit an iceberg and then ultimately sank to the bottom. It was by faith these people believed that that ship wasn't going to sink. In their case, their evidence was faulty. They ignored the actual science. They ignored the possibility that that ship might hit an iceberg. They ignored a lot of different things, and that boat sank. We as Christians, we don't ignore the evidence about God. We don't ignore the things that we see in the world. We don't ignore everything that we see going on around us, but the atheist must. Because in order for the atheist to be relevant in these debates and in these discussions, the atheist must ignore everything around him and go by what's going on in here and not what he sees going on around here. Stop with the unreasonable expectation, the unreasonable things where you're asking us to give you evidence for God, when in reality, all you want to do is just do this, what Richard Dawkins does when Richard Dawkins is talking about us. This is the only thing that you want to do when you're dealing with us Christians. You ain't interested in evidence. This is what you're interested in. Let me find it real quick and then play it. Oh, y'all killing my mojo. Where is it? Y'all killing my mojo. Here we go.
Mock them, ridicule them. In public. Don't fall for the convention that we're all too polite to talk about religion. Religion is not off the table. Religion is not off limits. Religion makes specific claims about the universe which need to be substantiated and need to be challenged. And
you know what? The atheists make claims about the universe. Atheists make claims about the earth that we live on. Atheists make claims about morality. Atheists make claims about other people. And yet atheists fail every single time at proving their points. It's always based on their imperfect opinions, not based or seated in reality. It's not based on any of those things. Okay. And if you're an atheist and you disagree with me, all you got to do is ask for a link and I'll let you come in here and we can talk. But you don't have to ask for a link. You can stay in the back and you can just slightly just do this and agree with me. That's all you got to do is just agree. You want to know why? Because you know I'm telling the truth. You know that it is that nobody goes out there and says, give me 100% proof that so-and-so exists. I don't even have 100% proof that the devil exists. But I know what's going on around me. I know what's going on in here. I know the historicity that we have available to us. I know the science that we have available to us. And it all points to the fact that God exists, the devil exists, and we will be judged one day. I have God's word that I do accept as evidence. A lot of atheists, before you even start the conversation, this is how you know they're playing games with you, is when they sit there and they try to say this doesn't count as evidence because this is the claim. Then they get angry at us when we say, okay, if I can't use that as my claim, if I can't use that, then you can't make any claims about God. You can't make any claims about my Christianity because you need that to do it. And then more importantly than that, I don't want to hear nothing about your biology books or your professors when you're talking about evolution. You better have all the answers yourself. And I already know what to ask them to prove that they don't have the answers because most of them don't even have degrees. You start asking them about mutations, which is the mechanism of evolution. You start asking them, how do you get new anatomy from random mutations? None of them. It doesn't matter if they have 4. How you doing, scientist Mel? It doesn't even matter if they have 4 PhDs. You can't do it. Doesn't matter if you're a former engineer, Steve McRae. You can't do it. Doesn't matter if you're good at fighting flat earthers. Red line. You can't do it. Doesn't matter if you went to school for plant biology, Dragnut, you can't do it. Doesn't matter if you have your own radio show called The Atheist Experience. Oh, I'm sorry. Had your own radio show called The Atheist, radio TV show called The Atheist Experience. You can't do it. You can't do it. Let me tell you what an atheist is at the end of the day. An atheist is the thing that I've been saying on this channel for over 10 years. An atheist is a misotheist. A misotheist absolutely abhors God. They hate the concept of God. It isn't just a God of the Bible. It's the very concept of a supernatural. And I want to make sure I point that out. A supernatural God, because they'll argue for naturalistic ones, like a statue or whatever, or the universe being God or something like that. Some of them don't got an issue with that. They'll just change their atheism to deism or something like that. You know what I mean? But the point is these people hate God. They don't have nothing nice to say about him. You can read in the Bible how the devil did something to somebody and it was God's fault. I am dead serious. The devil can possess someone, kill someone, destroy someone's fight. It was God who did it. It wasn't the devil. That is how blind they are with hatred. Then there's anti-theism, the idea that they're against religion. They're totally against religion, not understanding what the word means, because a lot of them wrongly believe that religion involves God. Okay, there are a lot of religions out there, secular religions, that don't have anything to do with God. They're only against. And I think listen to me, I don't even think they think Muhammad is all that bad. They don't have a problem with Islam. I don't think they got a problem with Judaism. They got a problem with fundamentalist Christians. That's their issue. All right. So before anybody tries to go out there and try to say that G-Man's reaching and that G-Man's being dishonest and G-Man's being hateful and blah, blah, listen to me. My Bible tells me to not believe every spirit that claims that claims that they're from God. So if a person comes to me and claims that they're a Christian, you know I'm a little skeptical when I hear it. So if I'm that way towards a person that's coming to me that says that they're a Christian, how much more am I going to be that way towards somebody who says that they don't even believe at all? You know what I mean? So stop engaging atheists believing they're telling you the truth. It is one of the worst spiritual mistakes you can make in your entire life. It will cost you something. A little piece of you will die when you start accepting their claims. I have seen it over and over and over and over again on here. And some people think I'm wrong. I'm going to mention some people on here that I don't really like talking about, but I'm going to give you proof of what I'm talking about. How many of you remember these two? No, sorry, not these two. This YouTuber called Shanny for Christ. How many of you remember her? Shanny for Christ used to have her little channel, and she used to have in big red letters, love, right? And I'm not going to beat her up in this video. I just want you guys to hear me out for a moment, okay? She defended them for years. For years, she defended them. And these are the very people that utterly destroyed her. Well, actually, one can argue she destroyed herself, but you all know what I mean. You know what I mean? They completely destroyed her. Galaxy Dreams at one time started to listen to the atheists. It cost her faith for a little while. Eve Real listened to the atheists, and it cost her faith for a little while. Well, you know, G-Man, you Christians don't talk about the difficult topics in the Bible. You don't talk about the morality of slavery. You don't talk about. Now they can't get us to shut up about it. They can't get us to shut up about it now. And we all know their story. They eventually came back to their senses and left atheism. Atheism is hatred towards God. I'm sorry. Atheism doesn't exist. You have misotheists. You will know who they are when they start talking about God. And then you have anti-theists, the people that is against religion. Now, you'll get a clever person like multiple personalities, Nate the lawyer, that will come in here and he'll talk about these things. And he will sound like he just lacks belief. He just lacks belief. He just lacks belief. He lacks belief. Because why? Because there's not been a sufficient amount of evidence that's been shown to him. That's not true. Sufficient evidence has been shown to him. He makes a conscious decision not to believe. Steve McRae, sufficient evidence. No, I'm sorry. Steve McRae is a little bit different because he's an agnostic atheist. He doesn't believe that we can know if God exists. I know you guys know the fastest way to kill that noise is by basically doing what? Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing the word of God. Okay? And Steve McRae is not willing to listen to it, then of course he's going to come to the conclusion saying that we can't know. Steve McRae won't put it to the test and get on his knees and actually start praying. Turn away from his sins. I dare him to do that. To turn away from his sins, confess the Lord Jesus Christ, and actually believe that he's sitting at the right hand of power and actually watch God work in his life. He won't do that. He won't take a step out of faith and do that because you can't know. Even though we told him over and over and over how he can know. This is why atheists grow up to believe that Christianity is a threat to our society, because we believe things that are not rational and things that cannot be proven. And the truth of the matter is we can prove the things that we believe, but we do it on faith and not on science. Okay. Do not go around asking us to give you 100% proof for something when you don't live your life like that. We live our lives. We live our lives where we base it on faith. All of us do. If you understand what the word actually means. It doesn't mean walking around with your eyes closed and just believing every Tom, Dick, and Harry who says something. Oh, believe me, there's a lot of people out there like that. One of my favorite things to do, is going off topic a little bit, is when people are attacking me, I say, okay, where's your proof? That should tell you something about yourself. You believe everything that this person said, and they haven't shown you a drop of proof for it. I'm not talking about blind faith. There's more than one type of faith that's out there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to dedicate a video one day, maybe a YouTube short or something when I'm outside on my way to the gym or something like that. But I'm going to talk about the different definitions of faith. But the kind of faith that I'm talking about is the faith that is backed by evidence, pistols. It's the kind of evidence that's backed by faith. And that is how a lot of us live our lives. Okay, just like the pretzel example I gave you. When I go to the store and I buy this, I don't know what this is. I know that the bag says pretzels. I know it smells like pretzels. I know the ingredients suggest that it's pretzels. But how do I know they didn't lace this with arsenic? How do I know they didn't put anything with this? But by faith, I'm going to believe the claim, and I'm going to check the stuff out on faith. Not science. Faith. So for the atheist, I have to ask you a question. What is your standard? What is your standard of proof? What is it going to take if I'm to humor you regarding that you need evidence for God's existence? What is your standard of proof? What is your standard of proof as an atheist that God exists? You can't ask me for 100% proof that he exists or 100% anything, because you don't live your life that way. Let's be a little realistic here. Let's be honest. What is it going to take to get you to believe? Let's go to the chat here real quick. Okay, so they're not watching. I got two Christians. Rebuke and reprove. True empiricism. Rebuke and reprove and true empiricism. But I know I'm asking sincere questions here. Yesterday, Steve McRae, and I just missed it, did a show on creation versus evolution. And when I took a peek in the room, Redline was there. Steve McRae was there. And it was two other people there. And he's doing it with the Non Sequitur show. Now, I know a lot of us are trying to rebuild our channels. A lot of people have left YouTube and have joined Clubhouse and some of these other brands or whatever. But I don't mind trying to help, provided that they actually try to help my channel too. I'm not just going to go to their channels. They got to come to mine. But Steve's been to my channel. And then eventually I'm going to go over there and have a discussion with them. But we need to know what the standard of proof you have to show you that God exists. And when you tell us you don't know, I'm just going to preach the gospel to you. And when you start telling me you don't believe, I'm going to say, yeah, okay, sure. Like, for example, if somebody tells me, gee, man, I believe in Santa Claus, right? And I say to them, okay, so prove to me that Santa Claus exists, right? They're going to say, well, what kind of proof do you need? Okay. From what I understand, based on the available, let me stop trying to quote it and read it. Based on the available body of facts or information indicating whether or not a belief or proposition is true, Santa Claus is in the North Pole. This is what you got to do. You have to go to the North Pole. You have to find his workhouse. You have to find his elves, and you got to start taking pictures, and you got to come back and show me that he's actually out there. And then I'll believe. That's reasonable. Yeah, he could have photoshopped it and all the other stuff and whatnot, but I don't know when I look at it. Because he can actually bring me there and let me see the place for myself. That's being reasonable. But when somebody says to you, and I know some of you watching this have experienced this, that what if God came down from heaven and held a dead star in his hand? Would you believe? Well, how do I know I'm not in the Matrix? That's when you're dealing with a troll. That's when you're dealing with somebody who's being intellectually dishonest. That's how you know you won. See, we Christians forgot this one little point. We think that we have to convince them that God exists in order to win an argument with an atheist. No, you don't. To win an argument with an atheist, and believe you me, you need to hear this, okay? To win an argument with an atheist is to get them to show their illogical behavior. You got them at that point. You don't even need to engage them anymore. All you got to do is say, listen, I don't have to engage in this illogical nonsense. You're not even making sense anymore. You know, nobody lives their life that way. You're telling me if God came down and held a dead star in his hand, you wouldn't believe that he was God. Well, then what are you looking at? If you knew that was a dead star and you knew a person was holding it in their hand, what are you looking at? It could be an operation. Could be the Matrix. Could be Neo playing mind games with me. How do I know I'm not hooked up to some machine? How do I know I'm not dreaming? How do I know I'm not asleep? Dead serious. I'm dead serious. This is how they behave. That's when you know you got them. Because now they got to go from logical to sounding straight up stupid. And I've been in people's rooms where I've not been the mod, and people told me I come across a bit strong, that I'm a bad arguer when it comes to talking about these topics and whatnot. But I'm gonna tell you something. Sometimes I just want to get to the point. That's why you can have one Christian in the room. True appearances can back me up on this. You can have one Christian in the room, and then you can have 10 atheists, 20 atheists, 30 atheists, 50 atheists, all taking their turns coming after you, and they won't be able to touch you because the only person being logical in the room is the Christian, not the people following a script. All right. It's very important. Very important. So just stop with the unhealthy expectations and whatnot, and asking us for things that you know that you don't even need to believe in something. You believe in abiogenesis, and I guarantee you've never seen a cell come out of an oxygenless environment. And even with the Youre experiment, that didn't even happen. You tried to replicate the environment, and two things happened. Okay, not that that you got a few amino acids or whatever, but what actually happened was you had people in the atheist community saying, well, we don't even know if that was the correct environment. That's number one. Because you talking about ammonia? How did the cells survive all of that ammonia and all them gases and all of that? How does that happen? And how was it able to self-replicate? How did all that happen in that kind of an environment? It's an idea, it's a thought, it's an imagination, but it's not the facts as we know it. But you believe it. And you believe it because somebody with a white coat, with a degree, told you it was true. All right. Atheism, okay, was created by the Jesuits to destroy your faith in Jesus Christ. Atheists don't even know the origins of their own belief systems. They don't. They don't know what happened in World War II. They don't know what happened in Europe. They're always talking about atheist countries in Europe. Have you ever asked them how these countries ever became atheists? Or secular, according to them? Because I don't believe that they're atheists. I believe there's something else. And I definitely don't believe they're secular. I definitely know there's something else. Especially when your state church is the Catholic Church, right? But how did they become that way? A lot of atheists don't even know this stuff, but they'll brag about those countries being that way. The United States apparently is on its way to going into that direction, according to them, the way they see it. But they ignore the obvious. They ignore the witchcraft. They ignore the occult. They ignore the new age and the age of Aquarius that they're trying to bring everybody into. They're ignoring a lot of stuff right now just to believe that we're going to be a secular society one day because the government's going to be that way. Atheism, believe it or not, has been dead for a very long time. Theism will exist until Jesus Christ returns. We got to stop showing them that respect that they're atheists when we know that they're not, and start making them give us realistic criteria for proof that God exists if they want to engage in a conversation with us. or shows them why they're being illogical immediately for what they're doing. Let's just look at Dr. Y. He says, if we could do the abiogenesis experiment, we would have done it and gotten a Nobel Prize. Okay. True empiricist says, doesn't really matter what happens. Standard of truth is give them facts and reason. If they can't refute it over some silly subjective standards, then they are in their own way. Exactly. And what's in their way is their hatred towards God. It is their fight against religion, because that's what they're against at the end of the day. Give me 1 second here, guys. That's what they're against. That is exactly what they're against. They're against religion and they're against God. Melly Germany says, atheism is just a lack of belief in God. Is not a movement or a political ideology. Not every unbeliever is an atheist. Okay, so the last statement, I believe. Okay, so everybody who's an unbeliever is not an atheist. You're right about that. But you're wrong when you say that atheism is just a lack of belief in God, okay, and is not a movement or a political ideology. Melly, either, okay, I'm going to assume you believe this. How about that? Just so I can teach you a little bit, okay? Instead of it just being mean. Because I remember what you said on the other channel, and I'm never going to forget that. So atheism is not a political movement, huh? Melly, let me ask you a question. How do you explain communist Russia? Or specifically the Soviet Union? Or more specifically, when all the churches were demolished and Christianity was outlawed in communist Russia? No, I understand that that's the definition, Melly. I understand that that's the definition. But how do you explain communist Russia? How do you explain China? How do you explain Korea? How do you explain that? Since it's not a political movement, where if you look at atheism and the history of atheism, they want you to worship the government. They want you to worship man, because those are the only two things that actually matter at the end of the day, according to them. Yeah, communism is anti-religious, but their foundation is atheism. Their philosophy is atheism. It is a political movement. It is an ideology. And there are rules to the game. That's why I know they got a piece of your brain. They got a piece of your brain because you believe their claims. I don't. They have never proven that they merely lack belief in God. Multiple personalities is one of my favorites to use as an example these days, because I consider him to be a undercover theist. Acts like a theist, behaves like a theist, and I notice I said theist. I ain't say Christian. He acts like a theist and he behaves like a theist while claiming to be an atheist. And he's not the only one. What about Richard Dawkins, who says that he's a cultural Christian? Let me show you something that something interesting in what Richard Dawkins actually said. And I'm gonna get these quotes for you guys where he said these things as we move forward. As we're talking about prophecy and one world religion and all this other stuff, and how atheism is playing a major role in moving us in that direction. And atheists don't even know that they're doing that, to be perfectly honest. A lot of these atheists are on the bottom. Where's the video I want to show you with Richard Dawkins? Here we go. Check this out.
I think it was my father who first introduced me to Darwinian evolution. I was immensely moved by it, and it did start a roller coaster in a way, and then I started to become really quite anti-religious after that. I went through a sort of middle ground of what you might call deism. I think I gave up Christianity before I finally gave up the idea of a sort of creative designer of some kind. Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. Before that, you could be an atheist, Hume was, for example, but it was quite difficult because you had no good explanation for why living things look so well designed.
Yeah, and you still can't explain it because evolution is a farce and it's not true. Okay, there are a lot of Christians that believe, and I'm going to call them Christians. Okay, and they believe in something called theistic evolution, where they believe that God started it, but then everything evolved afterward. That's not theistic evolution. That's deism in disguise. If you listen to what the claims of deism is that God started everything and then he left everything alone. And then you look at theistic evolution, that God created the first man and the first woman, and then they just evolved and they evolved. And create the first life forms. I'm sorry, because it couldn't just been the first man and woman, the first life forms, and the whole abiogenesis thing, and they evolved and they evolved and they evolved, which totally contradicts the first 7 chapters of the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis. You know what I mean? But it that God got it started, and then everything just went on its own, and God is just guiding it. That's deism in disguise. As a matter of fact, that's diet deism. I wouldn't even call it deism. It's diet deism. It's deism with a little bit more Christianity to it, because at least they're acknowledging the Christian God a little bit. You know what I mean? So there is no justification to be an atheist at all. There is no good reason to be an atheist at all. When somebody is calling themselves an atheist, this is what they're saying to you. That this is the best way I can explain my misotheism and my anti-theism. I'm mad that God didn't answer my prayer as a child. I don't like the suffering in the world. This God makes me sick because of this, and this God makes me sick because of that. I don't like Christians because of this, and I don't like Christians because of that. That's what an atheist is. Atheist has nothing to do with our life belief in God. No. Psalms 14:1 says that the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. They are corrupt and they have done abominable works. You have to be an outright fool to come to the conclusion that God doesn't exist and say all of this happened through natural processes. Is atheism is a waste of time. I believe that, but at the same time, they're still dangerous. They're still very dangerous, and you have to acknowledge them as being out there and show people before they get a chance to engage with them what to expect when they got to deal with them. Yes, but not all atheists are communists. The rejection of God was part of the communist ideology. I don't got an issue with that, Melly, but the point is that their foundation is atheism. Their foundation is atheism. The same ideology that they're trying to bring to the United States. And they have found this difficult because we Christians aren't stupid. And there's a lot of us. There's a lot of theists, various different religious beliefs here in the United States. We have our Constitution. We have the Bill of Rights. We have things that protect our beliefs right now. But I know the day is coming when all of that's going to change. But you want to know what? This is still going to be a place of theism. You want to know why? The Bible predicts that even the atheists will bow their knee and worship Antichrist and will worship his image. Because if they don't, they'll be eliminated on the spot. That is where the world is headed. And atheists are being played like a piano to help bring us to this point. It's kind of like what Palpatine did with the Jedi. You know what I mean? Using them for the Clone Wars. And then when he was finished with them, he executed Order 66 and they were done. And now he was the Supreme Chancellor. Atheists are just being played. They just don't know it. They're being played like little violins. One day they're going to come to the conclusion. They're going to understand this. And I think that some people who stop being atheists and ultimately become theists again, they begin to start understanding that life is meaningless when you're an atheist. You know, you live your life, you die, and then you become dirt. No wonder why so many of them are depressed and going through the things that they're going through mentally. They need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. They need to hear often. They need to hear a message of hope. They need to hear about somebody out there that actually cares about their souls. The percentage of atheists in the United States lies at 3 to 4% for the last 80 years. So very few unbelievers actually identify as atheists. I agree that very little people in this country identify as being that. But depending on the kind of atheist that you talk to, Like if you talk to a bionic dance, if you talk to a militant atheist, they will argue that that number is probably a little bit higher, like about 30 to 40%, because they believe in their pea brains. And this is why I know it's not atheism. They believe in their pea brains that if a person stops going to church, they became atheists. And Christianity goes down because somebody stops going to church. If you go to China, there's a lot of people not going to the public churches. There's a lot of people not going to these public churches. You want to know why? They're going to church underground because they don't want to be going to a state-ridden church where they're playing around with their Bibles and being lied to all the time. You got to be careful with the percentages. You got to be careful. Atheism is dangerous. As a matter of fact, the reason why atheists can feel the need to be a sadist and go after people and wish their harm and want to go after them over and over and over again is because they don't have a moral parameter. They have no way to measure what is good and what is bad. They have no way to do that. Well, I can look at by sane, logical, by your own personal opinion, basically, right? We cannot base our society based on our own personal opinions, because if we do that and we start ignoring the facts as we know them, we'll have anarchy in this country. Pure anarchy. All right, pure anarchy. And if you're an atheist and you believe that you need 100% proof that to believe that God exists, this video is for you. This video is for you. Stop lying to yourself. Again, nobody lives that way. And Christians, the next time somebody comes to you and says they need 100% proof that God exists, or 99.9% of proof, use the Pretal example. They'll laugh at you, but they know it's true. Ask them, do they go examine a jet airliner before they get on the plane? And do they look at the engine and make sure it's not going to crash when it's flying over the Pacific? They don't do all of that. They believe by faith, based on the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. They believe based on that, with faith, that they're going to be able to go from point A to point B. It is what it is. Melly, on the G-Man channel, as well as the other channel, there are certain words that cannot be used on this channel. I don't know what you was trying to say. I don't see any things that you was trying to say on here or whatever. But this channel is heavily my live chat. You can't just say whatever you want, although I'm thinking about changing that. All right. But if there's somebody out there that disagrees with me, let me know in the comment section. Give the video a like if you guys like the video. Let me know if you want me to make more videos like this. I'm definitely about to start touching on evolution again, because it's about time we did that, because since Erica and Daper Dinosaur and these guys have hit YouTube, the topic has become hot again. So I'm going to start dealing with this topic again. And maybe I'll invite Daper Dinosaur on his channel again to show him why he needs to embrace creation and why evolution is a farce. And it's not true. It's a bedtime story for adults. All right. We can actually do that. It'd be creation versus evolution. And I think that'd be a good show and edifying for the people to watch. Now, some of you are probably wondering, what has this got to do with the one world religion? You know, one more thing that atheists do that's really annoying is that they say that, okay, if I'm to accept that our country is supposed to be run by a theistic belief system, why not use all of them? Why just use Christianity, right? So they try to advocate for Satanism and all the other belief systems, as well as when they're using this hypothetical or whatever, they try to use Christianity and whatnot, right? Please understand this. Atheists do not have a problem with the other religions of the world. They don't got a problem with Buddhists. Why would atheists have a problem with Buddhists? What God does a Buddhist recognize? From their worldview. From a Christian worldview, I would say Buddha himself. But from their worldview, there's no God in Buddhism. What is their problem with Hinduism? What is their problem with the New Age movement? What is their problem with LaVeyan Satanism, since LaVeyan Satanism is made up of atheists? What's their problem with it? The one world religion will come about because atheists are constantly advocating for these other religions and trying to give them a stage on the platform. They're actually, they don't know it, but they're subconsciously bringing everybody together in unity. Everybody but fundamentalist Christians who take the Bible literally. if you're willing to compromise, believe in evolution, believe me, there's a lot of Buddhists out there that believe in evolution, a lot of Hindus that believe in evolution. Any of these religions that believe in evolution, those atheists are they're all part of the agenda. I don't know, Mally. I can see the word agnostic there. And if it was banned, I wouldn't be able to do that. So, like I said, I'm gonna get into those things as time goes on, because I'm not gonna be dropping this topic of the one world religion for a good minute. But people got to understand the atheist role in this. We got to understand what happened after the Protestant Reformation, when the Jesuits was sent out to try to destroy fundamentalist Christians. Okay, we got to look at their methodologies and how they went about doing it. They did it through war. They did it with the law. They did it with other different religions. They have infiltrated our churches, and I will show and demonstrate all of this. Okay, even to the mockery of atheists and atheist churches. We will be getting into those things as the things go on in the future. So for those people, the people that consistently watch this channel, you'll be blessed and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. For the people that are intentionally trying to stop my channel from growing, all those other stuff and whatnot, that's them and whatnot. They're not going to stop this movement. I assure you of that. And until next time, guys, this has been another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries. The next show I do will be open for everybody to join. We will do a debate arena on creation versus evolution. I am not going to include flat earth in this, because the last time I did that, we saw what happened. So we're going to do creation versus evolution. Read your Bible and do what it says. God bless.